Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something most of us dread, I think. Those mandatory, sometimes super awkward chats with neighbors. You know, the elevator ride, the hallway nod, that kind of thing.
And our mission here isn't just basic politeness 101. We've dug into the source material to pull out really actionable strategies, specific phrases even, to turn those like silent standoffs into something more comfortable, maybe even community building.
Yeah, the sources are really practical on this. Everything from just a quick hello to handling actual conflict. Okay, let's get into it. Starting small, really small. The micro interaction.
Yeah.
Right, the elevator. Maybe 30 seconds, forced proximity, and silence. Well, silence can feel incredibly loud in there.
Yeah.
The goal, based on the research, it isn't deep connection, is it? It's just acknowledgement.
Exactly. It's what the research calls social maintenance. Basically, you're just signaling, I see you, I'm not dangerous, and the quickest way. A little nod, maybe a small smile. It's universal, efficient, and kind of immediately lowers that mutual tension.
Okay, so nonverbal check. Then comes the verbal greeting. Hello, hi, morning. But then often you get the how are you? And this is where it gets interesting because the answer isn't really about how you are.
Right. This is critical in these quick hits. How are you is like pure formula. It's just conversational glue, a ping pong signal that things are normal. If you actually launch into your life story, you've kind of broken the code.
So what's the correct response for keeping things smooth? The social password.
Keep it short, keep it positive, and this is key, bounce it back. The perfect script is something like, good, thanks, how are you? Or, doing well, thanks, you. Positive, brief, return the serve, every time.
But what if the ride's a bit longer? Or you just feel you have to say something more? The classic go-to is the weather. Now, I gotta ask, doesn't talking about the weather just feel like peak awkward small talk? Does the research really say this helps?
Well, it does, but mostly because it's incredibly low risk. In that short, slightly tense elevator moment, you want maximum agreement, minimum emotional vulnerability. Whether shared, it's neutral, nobody's going to argue much about it.
Okay, so give us the phrases, the ones that kind of nudge them into agreeing easily.
Yeah, don't just state it, frame it for agreement. Nice day, beautiful day, isn't it? That isn't it is gold. Makes it easy for them to just say, yes, lovely. If it's bad weather, maybe, wow, this rain is something else, or can't believe how cold it is. You're just, sharing the immediate reality.
Okay, let's level up. Say you're in the hallway, maybe the laundry room, waiting for a delivery. You might chat for, a minute or two? If weather's the appetizer, what's the next course?
The weekend. It's the natural next step, especially around Monday or Friday. Super common, still pretty light. On a Monday, did you have a good weekend? Or Friday, any fun plans for the weekend?
And the answer strategy is the same, right? Short, positive, volley it back.
Absolutely. Give a tiny, blandly positive detail, nothing too personal. Oh, it was nice, just relaxed at home. Or, yeah, pretty quiet, caught up on some reading. And then crucially, how about you? Always turn it back. It keeps the ball in their court.
I like that. It shows interest, but keeps boundaries. Another thing the research highlights is using shared building experiences. That seems effective.
Oh, yeah. That's prime shared context. If something's changed, like, oh, the new paint in the lobby looks nice, doesn't it? Easy agreement. Even shared frustrations, handled right, can work.
Handle right meaning with humor, not a shared complaint session.
Exactly. Say the elevator's broken again. Instead of groaning together, maybe a little chuckle and, well, I guess we're getting our steps in today. It frames it as us against the minor problem, builds a little team feeling rather than just, negativity.
So the main takeaway for these slightly longer chats in shared spaces seems to be friendly, but don't pry.
Precisely. Keep it light, keep it surface level. A quick hi or a brief chat is way better than pointedly ignoring someone. But yeah, you're not trying to become best friends in the laundry room. Usually.
Okay, moving to more practical territory.
Yeah.
Favors. Asking for help. It's common in apartment living, right? Asking someone to grab your packages, maybe water your plants. How do we ask politely without sounding demanding?
Politeness here often means being indirect. You frame it as a question about their willingness or ability to consider it, not just demanding the favor. So phrases like, I was wondering if you could possibly do me a small favor, or, hey, I know you're busy, but would you mind? It shows respect for their time right off the bat.
And acknowledging the size of the favor matters too, right? Like borrowing sugar versus asking them to hold your key for a week.
Huge difference. For a tiny favor, like borrowing an egg or sugar, you start with an apology for bothering them. So sorry to interrupt, but I'm mid-recipe and just ran out of sugar. Any chance I would borrow a cup? I'll replace it tomorrow. Offering to replace it immediately is key. For a big favor, like plant watering, you explicitly call it a huge favor, acknowledge the effort, and make it super easy for them. Clear instructions, key ready, etc.
What about the other side? Offering help. You see someone struggling with groceries. How do you offer without making them feel, I don't know, incapable?
Keep it casual, friendly, and action-oriented. Meet a hand with that is perfect. Or if you see them fumbling with keys and bags at the door, just stepping forward and saying, let me get that door for you while doing it. It's a simple gesture. And critically, you have to be totally okay if they say, no thanks, I've got it. Respect their no.
Okay, and responding. If someone asks us for a favor, saying yes is easy, but how do we say no politely without damaging that neighborly goodwill?
The formula is apology first, then a brief external reason if possible. You don't owe a long explanation. Something like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'd love to help, but I'm actually going to be out of town myself next week. It shows you wish you could, but circumstances prevent it. Keep it simple, keep it regretful, but firm.
And gratitude, if someone does help you out.
For small things, a sincere thank you so much, I really appreciate it, is usually enough. For bigger favors, like the plant watering or package collecting, yeah, a small token is often appropriate. It doesn't have to be big, some chocolates, a postcard from your trip. Just a little something to say, I truly value your help.
All right, this is probably the trickiest one. Conflict. Noise complaints, parking issues. The goal here isn't to win, right? It's just to solve the problem peacefully.
Absolutely. And the absolute first rule before you even knock on their door, stay calm. And crucially, assume the best. Assume they genuinely don't realize how thin the walls are or that their music is bothering you. If you go in hot, they'll get defensive and you've lost before you start.
Okay, so calm, assuming good intent. You knock. What's the opening line?
Start soft, acknowledge the interruption. Hi, sorry to bother you. Then the magic is using I statements. Focus on the impact on you, not their bad behavior.
Give us the noise example again with that I statement structure.
Instead of, your music's way too loud, which is an accusation. Hey, I can hear your music pretty clearly in my bedroom and I've got to be up early tomorrow. See? It's about your experience. Then the request. I was wondering if you might be able to turn it down just a little bit. It's softer, less confrontational, allows them to comply without feeling attacked.
And for things like someone parking in your spot or maybe leaving trash bags in the hall, same gentle approach.
Yeah, keep it factual and, if possible, impersonal. For parking, a polite note is often best. No emotion, just facts. Hi, I think there might have been a mix-up with the parking spots. This one, number 24, is assigned to apartment 3B. Thanks. Simple direct, assumes error, not malice. For hallway trash, maybe a friendly reminder about the building rules next time you see them, framed as helping keep the place nice for everyone.
But what if it happens again? You try the gentle approach, it didn't stick, the music's loud again next weekend. What's conversation number 2?
Okay, round 2 needs to be polite still, but a bit more direct. Start with the apology again, so sorry to bother you again, but then clearly state the recurrence. But the music is quite loud in my apartment again tonight. Then you set a clearer boundary respectfully. I would really appreciate it if we could try to keep the noise down a bit after, say, 10 p.m. on weeknights.
And if that doesn't work, when is it time to escalate? To involve the landlord or management?
Only after you've made at least 2, polite, direct attempts yourself. If the behavior continues, then yeah, it's time to shift from neighborly chats to formal documentation. Contact the landlord or building manager, preferably in writing, like email. Stick to the facts, dates, times, brief description of the issue. No emotion, just a record. Let them enforce the lease. Of course, if the behavior is threatening or feels like harassment, you skip the polite chats and go straight to management or even the police immediately.
So, stepping back, what's the big idea behind all these scripts and strategies? It seems like navigating neighbor stuff, especially in Western cultures, is this constant balancing act.
That's exactly it. You're walking this tightrope between friendliness, the smiles, the hellos, the light small talk, and fiercely respecting privacy. The home is seen as a private sanctuary. Your job is to be civil outside that space, but you don't assume entry into their personal lives.
And a big part of respecting privacy is knowing what not to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Avoid intrusive questions. How much rent did they pay? Are they married? Why aren't they married? Any kind of deep personal problem. Stick to safe, public topics, weather, weekends, maybe local events. And like we said, the biggest behavioral no-no is dropping by unannounced just to hang out. That's almost always seen as crossing a line.
How do you figure out how friendly a particular neighbor wants to be? Some people are just more reserved.
You read the signals and you match their energy. If they give short answers, avoid eye contact, seem eager to end the chat, that's your cue. They want politeness, but distance. Respect it. A quiet neighbor isn't necessarily unfriendly. They might just be very private, and their idea of being a good neighbor is giving you space.
But what if they do seem open? They ask questions back, they linger a bit. How can you maybe nudge things from just polite nods towards a more friendly acquaintance?
Okay, there are a few low-key ways. One is remembering details. If they mentioned a trip last week, ask about it next time. Hey, how was that hiking trip? It shows you listened, makes them feel seen. Second, find little bits of common ground. Oh, you both have dogs. Or like the same local coffee shop. Use that as a bridge. Ask for a recommendation, maybe.
And you mentioned low-pressure invitations. Give us an example of how that sounds.
Yeah, keep it super casual, group-oriented if possible, and always give them an easy out. Like, hey, a few of us from the building are thinking of grabbing coffee at that place on the corner Sunday morning. Feel free to swing by if you're free. The key is if you're free, or no pressure if not. Makes it easy to decline without awkwardness.
This really does provide some structure for what can feel like social chaos.
Okay.
Let's wrap this up. What are the absolute essential do's and don'ts we've distilled?
All right, the core do's. Definitely do be friendly and polite, smile, say hello. Do use those simple small talk formulas for quick chats. Do be mindful of your noise, especially early or late. And do approach conflict calmly, assuming good intent first.
And the big don'ts.
Don't ignore building rules. Don't get sucked into gossip. It always backfires. Don't be aggressive or accusatory when you have an issue. And maybe most importantly, don't forget to respect people's privacy. No intrusive questions, no surprise visits.
Okay, a lot of what we've talked about is focused on managing your actions, controlling your side of the interaction. But what about when you have a neighbor who's just difficult or perpetually unfriendly? What's the final thought for protecting your own peace of mind in that situation?
It's a tough one, but I think the most powerful strategy, based on the underlying principles here, isn't trying to change them. It's practicing consistent, calm, polite detachment. You keep being civil, you follow the rules of neighborly conduct, but you detach emotionally from their response. You can only control your behavior, and maintaining your own civility without expecting anything back is probably the best way to safeguard your own peace in that living situation.
Okay, let's dive in. We're taking a really close look at the cultural landscape of the United States today. We've pulled together a whole range of sources, everything from practical travel advice to, deeper thoughts on society.
Yeah, the idea is to give you something genuinely useful, to get past the usual tourist stuff and into what actually helps you understand the place. We'll break it down a bit. First, the basics you need to just get by.
Right. Survival tips.
Exactly. Then we'll explore the social side of things, how people interact, and finally we'll dig into some of the bigger societal ideas and, well, challenges shaping American life.
Perfect. So it's not just a checklist, it's more about understanding the why. Let's get started. So the first big thing that just jumps out from everything we looked at, it's the scale, the sheer size of the U.S.
It's huge. And that's not just a fun fact, it genuinely affects everything. Thinking about a coast-to-coast trip, that's like London to Moscow, basically. Yeah. And you might glance at a map and think, oh, just a couple of states away, but that could easily be a 6, 7, 8-hour drive, minimum. You lose whole days just traveling within the country.
And that size means huge variety, right? The regions feel almost like different countries.
Totally. You've got the sunny West Coast beaches, then the history-packed East Coast cities, and the South with its very distinct hospitality and culture. You really can't paint it all with one brush.
Which leads straight into how you get around.
Right. Transportation. Outside of maybe New York City, possibly Chicago, public transit is, well, it's often not great. Spotty at best in many places.
So for most of the U.S.
A car is pretty much essential. It's not a luxury item, it's how you function. So if you're traveling around, especially outside the major city centers, you're probably looking at renting a car, maybe a standard mid-size sedan, or relying heavily on Uber or Lyft.
And if you do drive, remember, drive on the right side of the road. Seems obvious, but important. Speed limits are usually somewhere between 55 and 70 miles per hour on highways.
And be warned, the sources are clear, speeding fines can be hefty, they really hit you hard, and highway patrol can be quite vigilant. Oh, and a practical tip for renting.
Yeah.
Ask for unlimited mileage, seriously. Otherwise, if you clock up a lot of miles driving between states, you could get a nasty surprise bill at the end.
Good tip. Okay, moving on. Money and manners. This feels like a big one for visitors. Tipping.
It's absolutely crucial. And you need to understand why. It's not just, a little extra for good service. It's fundamental to how many service workers earn their living.
Because their base pay is low.
Often, yes. Federal minimum wage for tipped workers can be very low.
Yeah.
So those tips aren't just a bonus. They're often the bulk of their income. It's an economic reality you have to engage with.
Okay, so what's the practical advice? What should you actually do?
Right. Standard restaurant tip is generally 15% at the very least. Most people aim for 18-20% for decent service.
15 to 20%. Okay.
And at a bar, it's usual to tip about $1 or $2 per drink you order.
Got it. And if you're paying cash,
A useful phrase is, check, please. And if the tip is included in the change you'd leave, you can just say, keep the change when you hand over the money.
okay. Let's talk food. What should people expect when dining out?
Two things usually stand out to newcomers. Huge portions. Seriously, plates can be piled high.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And free refills on soda, sometimes iced tea or coffee too. It's standard practice. And because the portions are so big, don't feel awkward asking for a to-go box or a doggy bag.
It's normal, not seen as rude or cheap.
Not at all. It's completely normal, even expected. It's seen as sensible, not wasteful. Take those leftovers home. Food-wise, you'll find the staples everywhere. Burgers, fries, BBQ ribs. But cities offer incredible variety too.
Okay, last practical point for this section. Environment and safety.
Basic safety precautions apply, obviously. Lock your car doors, lock your hotel room, be aware of your surroundings, maybe avoid walking alone late at night in unfamiliar or poorly lit areas. Pretty standard stuff.
And something maybe less obvious.
Homelessness. It's quite visible in many U.S. cities. It can be a real social eye-opener for visitors. It's a complex issue, but approach it with empathy.
Yeah.
And then there's the AC assault.
The what?
Air conditioning. Americans often seem to love it set to freezing. Seriously, buildings can be icy cold inside, even when it's boiling hot outside in July or August.
Okay, practical tip there.
Always pack a sweater or a light jacket. Seriously, you'll thank yourself, even in summer. It's a small thing, but key for comfort.
All right, so we've covered the essentials, driving, tipping basics, giant portions, packing a sweater. Now let's dig into the next layer. The cultural texture, the social norms that define daily life.
And you can't talk about American social texture without diving deep into car culture. It's just dominant, especially once you leave the dense city centers. The suburbs are, as one source put it, star-spangled with SUVs.
The car as more than just transport.
Absolutely. It's a symbol of freedom, independence, personal space, your own little bubble on wheels. But
it causes problems.
Exactly. That dependence leads directly to things like the gridlock golden hour, that soul-crushing rush hour traffic in major metro areas. You hear horns honking constantly. It's the sound of individual freedom hitting the wall of shared reality,
Yeah, I know that sound. Now, something else distinctly American you mentioned. Customer service.
Ah, yes. The customer service dazzle can be quite intense for newcomers.
Described as performative pep.
That's a great phrase for it. Lots of smiles, very upbeat greetings, servers constantly checking in. How's everything tasting? Can I get you anything else? It can sometimes feel a little scripted.
But it can expect a tipping, right?
Directly. There's a clear incentive to be friendly, engaging, and attentive. That performance is often fueled by the hope of a good tip.
Which brings us back to the tipping tango, but maybe with more nuance now.
Exactly. We said 15-20% is the baseline for restaurants, but digging deeper, that sweet spot for really good service seems to be around 18%. But it's not just restaurants.
Where else?
Delivery drivers, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. The expectation there is now often closer to 20%.
20% for delivery. Wow.
Yeah, it shifted. And then personal services too. Getting a haircut. Plan on tipping maybe $10 to $15, depending on the service cost. Even your barista, there's often that tip jar by the register.
The barista's banter jar.
Right. Dropping $1 or $2 in there for making your coffee is pretty standard. It's this constant, low-level financial grease that keeps the service wheels turning. Almost every interaction has this potential tipping element.
Let's swing back to food again, but the cultural side, those huge portions you mentioned, plump as pillows.
Yeah, and because they're so big, sharing is really common. Don't be surprised if people suggest splitting a large main course, like a big steak or a rack of ribs. It's practical.
And saves you from having to take home a massive doggy bag every time.
Exactly, though the doggy bag is always an option. And when you talk about specific foods like BBQ, it gets really regional and passionate. Well, if you're in Texas, it's all about that smoky, slow-cooked beef brisket. But head over to the Carolinas, and pulled pork with a tangy vinegar-based sauce is king. People have strong loyalties. Food is definitely a big part of regional identity.
Okay, moving away from food. Everyday interactions with strangers. Small talk.
Ah, yes. The icebreaker extraordinaire. It's everywhere. In the grocery line, waiting for coffee, at the bus stop.
But it's usually quite superficial.
Generally, yes. It's what our sources called grocery gab. Commenting on the weather. Crazy weather, huh? Or maybe a local sports team's game, or just how long the line is. It's a way to acknowledge someone else's presence, be friendly, but without getting too personal. A low-stakes connection.
And while you're having that small talk, you probably notice the huge range of accents.
Oh, absolutely. It's not one single American accent. You have the Southern drawl, which some describe as slow, almost dripping honey. Then maybe a Boston accent, which can sound much sharper, more clipped, maybe even like it bites back.
An archipelago of accent?
That's a good way to put it. It reflects the country's diversity. It can sometimes be challenging to understand everyone at first, but it's also part of the richness.
How about leisure time? What stands out?
Sports are huge, particularly American football. The whole ritual around an NFL game, especially the tailgate party beforehand.
Explain tailgating.
It's basically a pregame party held in the stadium parking lot. People drive up, open the back of their trucks or SUVs, the tailgate, set up grills, cook food, play music, wear team colors, sometimes even paint their faces. It's a massive social event, almost as important as the game itself. Very communal, very tribal.
And shopping. Anything unique there?
The obsession with deals. Americans love a bargain. Think outlet odysseys, trips to huge shopping centers filled with discounted brand name stores.
Like Nike, Levi's?
Exactly. People hunting for those 70% off deals. It's practically a sport. And using digital coupons on phone apps like Ibotta or store-specific apps is very common too. It's about maximizing value, turning shopping into a bit of a calculated hunt.
Okay, we've covered the day-to-day practicalities and the social rhythms. Now, let's zoom out for a final segment. Looking at the deeper structures, the societal synapses, the big ideas and contradictions.
And it's interesting how that physical vastness we started with becomes almost a metaphor for the American psyche. That sense of wide open space seems connected to this deep-seated idea of rugged individualism.
Self-reliance.
Yeah, a strong belief in pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, making your own way. You see it reflected in the endless highways, this idea of freedom and independence. But it also creates tension.
Like with the car culture we discussed.
Exactly. That symbol of freedom, the car, is increasingly framed as fossil-fueled folly when you start thinking about climate change and environmental impact. The very infrastructure that enables independence also contributes to a massive systemic problem. There's a contradiction there.
Which leads us nicely into another big contradiction.
Yeah.
The tipping critique.
Right. This goes beyond just knowing how much to tip. It questions the whole system. The sources analyze it as a potential low-wage lament, an economic setup where the basic livelihood of service workers literally hinges on handouts, on the customer's discretion.
So it's a debate.
A really fundamental one. Is tipping a transactional trap that keeps wages low and makes workers dependent on unreliable generosity, a system that perpetuates economic insecurity? Or, as some argue, is it a trust token, a way to directly incentivize good service, hold servers accountable, and maybe even build a small temporary bond between the customer and the server based on empathy and appreciation?
It really highlights a core tension in how labor is valued.
Absolutely. And that kind of tension exists around identity, too. The old idea of the U.S. as a melting pot where everyone blends together into one thing that's being challenged. The sources suggest it's more like a mosaic multiplicity. Or maybe a salad bowl where different ingredients mix but retain their distinct character. You see different cultures, languages, traditions existing side by side, sometimes easily, sometimes with friction.
So e pluribus unum, out of many, one is more complicated now.
It represents an unruly unity, perhaps, a constant process of navigating difference, those diverse accents we mentioned. They're part of that mosaic, challenging, easy understanding, but also making the whole picture richer.
What about the American dream? Is that changing?
There seems to be a shift. The classic dream was heavily focused on owning a home, that hallowed hearth. But now, especially for younger generations facing high housing costs and maybe different priorities,
It's becoming something else.
perhaps more of a nomadic now. The dream might be shifting towards valuing experiences, flexibility, personal growth over settling down with a mortgage. It's a dialectic tension between stability and experience.
That sounds like it ties into some of the major societal challenges the sources highlighted,
Mhm.
like healthcare.
Oh, definitely. Healthcare is described quite vividly as a hydra, a complex beast, not because there's isn't innovation, there's tons of that, but because the system is largely privatized.
Later, too.
Predatory premiums and daunting deductibles. Basically, high costs and the fear that getting sick could lead to financial ruin. It's a major source of anxiety for many Americans.
Education.
Similar tensions. It's called a meritocracy mirage. The ideal is that hard work guarantees success. But the reality for many involves crushing student loan debt. Higher education becomes a pathway to debt-drowned dreams rather than guaranteed mobility.
Though there are exceptions.
Yes, the sources do point out that community colleges often function as vital egalitarian elevators, offering more affordable and accessible routes to skills and better jobs for many people.
Another interesting observation was about consumerism, the sheer amount of choice.
Right, the consumer conundrum. Having so many options, think about the cereal aisle in a big supermarket, just rows and rows can apparently lead to a cognitive cascade. Basically, brain overload. Too much choice leads to aisle anxiety, a kind of paralysis where it's hard to choose anything at all.
I think I've felt that.
It's part of the supersize ethos, this culture of abundance and excess, which, funnily enough, brings us back to the doggy bag.
How so?
In a culture grappling with excess, taking your leftovers home becomes this small, sensible act, a pragmatic panacea for gluttony's guilt, as one source rather poetically put it, a tiny pushback against wastefulness.
It's fascinating how these threads connect. Yet despite all these critiques and challenges, there's still the sense of optimism.
Yeah, that comes through strongly, a kind of optimism's oxygen, a deep-seated belief in resilience and reinvention and the possibility of a better future. Even something as simple and routine as someone saying, "Have a nice day." The sources suggest that maybe, underneath the routine, it whispers a kind of weary hope, a small, persistent wish for things to be good, despite everything. So we've covered a lot of ground there. From the very practical stuff like remember to rent a car with unlimited miles and tip at least 15% through to the feel of the place, the car culture, the customer service vibe.
Right. And then we dove into those bigger, trickier themes, the meaning of the American dream today, the tough realities of healthcare and education costs, and that fundamental tension between individualism and community needs.
And if you want one idea that really captures so many of those tensions, it comes back to tipping, doesn't it? That whole debate about whether it's a transactional trap or a system that, for better or worse, defines so much of the service economy.
It really makes you think. If that system is flawed, as the critiques suggest, what would a real systemic shift even look like? How could you actually wage war on want within that structure? It's a huge question.
It really is.
So as you think about the U.S. based on this deep dive, maybe see it less as a finished product and more as this ongoing experiment, a place full of incredible energy and innovation, but also wrestling with some really significant contradictions, a mix of, utopia and undercurrent. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you live near other people, apartments, condos, whatever, the first hello is easy. That's not the tricky part. It's the long haul, right? Keeping things okay with the people just on the other side of the wall, that gets complicated.
It really does. That initial, friendly vibe, it can wear thin pretty fast when things start piling up. Favors, requests.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking basic politeness today. We're really diving into let's say, the advanced skills you need for things to actually work long term. Like, how do you set real boundaries? How do you deal with different cultural styles? How do you feel genuinely okay where you live?
Right. We've looked at the sources, and it's clear you need more than just like a friendly wave. It's almost an advanced curriculum for what some people call the vertical village. You got to be intentional.
Exactly. And our deep dive today focuses on 4 really key advanced ideas. First up, the gentle no. It sounds simple, but it's crucial for boundaries. Second, curiosity over judgment. Super important when dealing with cultural differences. Third, specific compassion, knowing how to offer help that's actually helpful.
Right. Not just empty words.
Yeah. And finally, collective stewardship. Basically taking some ownership of the shared spaces around you.
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with the one that I think stresses everyone out. Saying no to someone you're already friendly with. That escalation trap you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
You do one small favor, want to be nice, and suddenly it's this huge regular thing.
It's probably the #1 way neighborly goodwill just curdles. You grab a package for them once because they're out for an hour, fine.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're the default mailroom. Or, okay, you water their basil plant for a weekend. Next thing, they're asking you to basically house sit for 3 weeks while they're trekking in Nepal.
And then you feel totally stuck.
Yeah.
You start dodging them in the hallway.
Yeah.
But isn't saying no directly going to wreck the relationship you tried to build? Why not just, vanish when they knock?
Because dodging just breeds resentment and confusion. It poisons the well, really. A clear no delivered well. That actually maintains respect. The technique we pulled from the sources is the gentle no. And the trick is all in the framing. It's about your limits or maybe a general policy, not about rejecting them.
Okay, so let's try the package thing, the constant deliveries. How do I use that capacity idea? How do I stop being the building's Amazon hub without sounding like a jerk?
Right. So you start warm, definitely friendly, but then straight away you mention something about your situation, an internal thing. Like, hey, I really wish I could keep grabbing those for you, but honestly, my work schedule's gone completely haywire lately. I can't promise I'll actually be here when stuff arrives, and man, I'd feel awful if something got missed or, went missing because I wasn't around.
I see. So I'm framing it like I'm trying to prevent a problem for them because I'm unreliable now. It's not about the inconvenience to me.
Exactly. You're protecting their interests by admitting your own limitations. It resets the pattern without blowing up the friendliness.
Okay, that feels doable for smaller stuff.
Yeah. Now, for those bigger asks, like the 3-week plant jungle situation, we shift gears a bit, from capacity to the other technique, the general policy.
Right, making it less personal, like it's just a rule you have. I like that.
Yeah.
What's the magic phrase again?
The key phrase is, as a general rule. It takes the focus off the specific request and puts it onto a sort of pre-existing boundary you have.
Okay.
So they ask about the 3 weeks of plant care. You say, wow, 3 weeks, that sounds incredible. Listen, as a general rule, I just can't really take on pet sitting or like long-term house care stuff for neighbors. I tend to worry way too much about something going wrong when it's someone else's place or, pets, but I really hope you find someone great for it.
As a general rule.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. It's like a polite force field. You stay friendly, but the line is clear. Impersonal. That's key for not letting things fester, I bet.
Totally. It preserves the peace long-term.
Okay, so boundaries are set.
Right.
But then there's understanding the actual people, especially when you've got folks from all sorts of backgrounds in one building. That's the next hurdle, right? When polite for one person is cold or even nosy for someone else.
Absolutely. And this is where that mindset shift is critical. Curiosity over judgment. Seriously. If a neighbor does something that strikes you as odd or maybe even rude, your first internal reaction needs to be, I wonder if there's a cultural reason for that. What might be the intention here? Not just, wow, that was rude.
Right. Like, let's talk communication styles. Say my music's too loud. I'd kind of expect maybe a gentle hint or a note. But sometimes people are just, bam, super direct. It can feel aggressive.
It can feel like a slap. But, in some cultures, think parts of Northern Europe, for instance, that directness is the respectful way.
Really?
Yeah. Saying, your music is too loud, please turn it down, isn't meant to be blunt or mean. It's seen as honest, efficient. They're treating you like a reasonable person who just needs the facts.
Okay, so if that happens, I need to kind of mentally translate it. Not take it as an attack, but just as information delivered their way.
Exactly. And flip side, equally tough. In cultures that really value harmony, you might never get a direct complaint. They might just say something vague like, wow, sounds like you really enjoy your sound system. And if you're the one making the noise, you have to be tuned in. You got to read between the lines because no complaint definitely doesn't always mean no problem.
That requires paying way more attention. Okay, and what about privacy versus community? That feeling of people asking really personal questions.
Yeah, that's a big one. It often gets misinterpreted. In a lot of collectivist cultures, neighbors are almost like, well, extended family.
Okay.
So dropping by without calling first or asking things like, are you married? Kids? Why are you home from work now? It feels intrusive to some, right? But the intention usually isn't to snoop. It's about understanding your place in the social fabric. It's how they build connection.
So if I'm not comfortable sharing all that, but I don't want to shut them down completely, how do I handle that probing?
You do what we call the dance. Answer briefly, politely. Give just enough to acknowledge the question, satisfy that social context need. Nope, not married, focusing on work right now. Something simple.
Okay.
And then pivot immediately. Change the subject back to something safer, more public. Ask them a question about the building or the weather or a local event. You guide the conversation gently. Offer connection, but on your terms.
Got it. It really boils down to assuming they mean well, even if the approach feels foreign to you. Lead with kindness,
Always.
which kind of leads perfectly into the next bit, actually offering support.
Yeah.
When you see someone is struggling, maybe an older neighbor with groceries, or someone just seems really down, how do you step in without being awkward or making them feel pitied?
Yeah, that's delicate territory. And the absolute worst thing is that vague offers. Hey, let me know if you need anything.
Oh, yeah, no one ever does.
Yeah, exactly. People who are struggling are often the least likely to ask. So the approach has to be specific compassion, offering something concrete, low-key, and preferably tied to something immediate.
Specific, so they can easily say yes or no without feeling like a burden. Okay, like the neighbor juggling grocery bags.
Right. Don't offer to solve all their problems. Tie it to what you're doing. Maybe you see them and you're heading out anyway. Hey, I'm just running to the store myself. Need me to grab you a gallon of milk or like a loaf of bread while I'm there?
Makes it seem like no big deal. Just adding one thing to my list.
Precisely. Easy to accept, easy to decline, preserves dignity. It's collaborative, not charity.
I like that. And for the neighbor who seems withdrawn or sad, you can't just barge in asking, what's wrong?
Definitely not. That puts him totally on the spot.
Okay.
Instead, you create a chance for connection with zero obligation. The classic move, food.
The universal offering.
Totally. Knock on the door. Hey, I went a little overboard baking cookies and made way too many. Wondering if you might like some.
That's so simple. And it doesn't demand anything back.
Exactly. The message it sends, very quietly, is, I see you. I'm thinking of you. You're not invisible. It's a tiny thing, but it can be the start of, a real informal support network. No pressure, just a small kindness.
That feeling of shared support, even if it's just cookies, seems like it naturally flows into the last idea, the one about the space itself. If we're building these connections, we also need to care for the place we share.
That's collective stewardship in a nutshell. It means shifting your mindset. Even if you own your unit, you gotta ditch the passive renter mentality about the common areas. Meaning you adopt an active owner's mindset for everything shared, the lobby, the hallways, elevators, laundry room, whatever it is.
So stewardship isn't just like don't spill coffee in the hall. It's more active than that.
Much more active. It means if you see a stray piece of junk mail or a crumpled napkin on the floor, you actually pick it up.
Instead of thinking, oh, the cleaner will get it.
Right. Or you notice a light's burned out in the stairwell. You don't just sigh and assume someone else has noticed or will report it eventually. You take literally 2 minutes, shoot off a quick email or use the building app. You take that tiny bit of personal responsibility for the shared environment.
That simple shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see how that would change the whole feel of a place if enough people did it. What about bigger recurring issues? Like people dumping old furniture by the bins all the time.
Okay, that's where you level up. You lead by example. Instead of just adding to the complaints thread on the building Facebook group, you turn the problem into a positive. You think, okay, how could we solve this together? Maybe organize a building swap meet for unwanted stuff. Or coordinate a specific day for a charity pickup. You transform the issue into a community building opportunity.
Moving from passive complainer to active problem solver. That shows a different level of commitment to the community, being a real citizen of the place.
That's exactly it. Social maturity, confidence.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a quick flyby of these 4 advanced skills again, just to lock them in.
Sure. So first we had the gentle no, using your own capacity or a general policy as the reason so you can set boundaries without nuking the friendship.
Got it. Then, curiosity over judgment, remembering to ask why. Internally, before judging weird neighbor behavior, especially across cultures, and knowing how to handle both super direct and super indirect communication.
Third was specific compassion, ditching the useless let me know if you need anything for concrete, low-key offers, like grabbing that milk or offering those extra cookies. Dignity matters.
Right. And finally, collective stewardship, shifting to that owner mindset for shared spaces, picking up the trash, reporting the light bulb, maybe even organizing that swap meet, taking active responsibility.
None of this is super easy. It takes real emotional intelligence, definitely patience. You won't get it perfect every time.
For sure.
But these are the things that actually build a home, not just a place you sleep between work days. It's about creating a real community fabric.
So, thinking about all this, maybe the challenge for everyone listening is, What's one small thing you can actually do this week? Is it finally practicing that gentle no you've been dreading? Or is it just taking 30 seconds to report that flickering light in the garage?
Yeah.
Because becoming that positive force, building that better environment, it starts with those small intentional acts. It really does depend on the effort you put into your immediate world. Go out there and start building.